Welcome to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub in London, and welcome to the library, Smart Partners Library. Smart Partners Library in the Smart Partners Hub, and every hub should have a library. It's not a library of books. It's a library of ideas. It's a library of people. They represent people's interactions and their intellectual or knowledge background. Today is 9th of September 2016, and I would like to launch the two main messages that CPTM members, CPTM Smart Partners, have been compiling, putting together, based on their real-time engagements in their own countries and as a group. One, to the Commonwealth finance ministers and the Commonwealth central bank governors and senior officials in Washington on 5th and respectively 6th of October, prior to the World Bank IMF meetings. And the other one is taking place this weekend, and it is in relation to the CPTM Smart Partners group involved in quality and standards for the last 7 years or so, together with and part of International Standards Organization. International Standard Organization has its 39th annual assembly, together with the developing countries, DEVCO, get together in Beijing this year, and that is taking place on 11th of September, 12th and up to 15th in Beijing. So the Commonwealth Partnership for Technology Management, Smart Partners, are actually engaged, or they are trying to leverage the Commonwealth type of new ideas and ways of approaching the digital age beyond the Commonwealth in a global context. As a smart partnership movement, in the words of His Excellency Joaquim Masire, former President of Botswana, the Commonwealth and beyond, and the smart partnership movement supported by CPTM is referred to as G-Smart. And we're aware that only last week G20, a very powerful emerging group, met in China. Well, hopefully a G-Smart will emerge, in which there will be not just G20 type of members, not just G7 or G8, but a smarter sharing of global knowledge related to specific opportunities and benefits that, particularly the digital age in 21st century, are offering. Therefore, I'll start with the message, the background, which was put together based on the interactions which took place, particularly the leading central bank governors about a few months ago at the CPTM Smart Partners Hub in the library, and which forms the basis of the briefing to all the Commonwealth finance ministers, the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, African, Southeast Asian, Northern American, Canada, Britain. This message is a background which is entitled Adaptive Flexibility Approaches for financial inclusion in a digital age. And as you realize, the financial inclusion is one of the leading initiatives, Smart Partners Initiative, in the context of what it emerged as a CPTM, Smart Partnership type of strategic framework for carrying forward national visioning. And is one of the initiatives which interact or brought in quality and standards initiative, technology initiative, and lately national statistics organizations, and that will continue. There will be more and more interacting institutional frameworks within the countries to enable to shape up new institutional frameworks, and all is quite partly a lot to do with the digital age. Now, in the case of the central bank governors, and therefore the two reports that have been submitted as background papers to the Deputy Secretary General, who is in charge of the Economic Policy Division, and will have the occasion to meet to get together all the central bank governors in the Commonwealth, as well as all the finance ministers and the senior officials prior to the World Bank in Washington at the beginning of October. These backgrounds mainly relate to the new emerging role and themes both of the central banks, but also, of course, finance ministries, and in particularly the opportunities and the challenges that strategic interdependencies between processes related to financial inclusion, which were initiated about 5-6 years ago all over the place, particularly in Africa and particularly in Kenya, and which now, as financial inclusion, is referred to not only in relation to the unbanked people in villages and so on, but financial inclusion has a major role in relation to big banks, central banks, developing countries, and so on. And quite a lot, as we said, is to do with the digital impact. Now, the paper, both the central bank governors' paper and the finance minister's paper, is obviously dealing with financial inclusion and the interoperability issues that central banks in different countries have to deal with, and this is based not on reports, it's based on real-time interaction and sharing experiences from leading central bank governors. The issue of blockchain specifically, or distributed ledger technology, DLT, has been given a very special focus in this brief because there is a need to understand the language, to understand what is bringing in the language, and particularly what is bringing in to central banks and finance ministries in relation to the emerging blockchain developments. So I would very much recommend that you are actually taking advantage and use the brief which was put together specifically beyond the central bank governors meeting in London, specifically for the finance ministers and central banks meeting prior to World Bank in Washington. What is in particularly important and unique about CPTM platform that is emerging is the fact that the central bank governors continue to attract Bureau of Standards, leading figures in the data science, leading figures in the emerging technology, blockchain and fintech, and obviously they became a main attraction of how to implement and to carry forward some of these digital technology aspects. I won't go into the detail of the paper, but it is an extremely useful background, both on financial inclusion interoperability update, as well as on the strategic interdependencies for financial inclusion to happen with statistics, data, and standards due to the digital landscape that is emerging. And obviously there are recommendations and proposals for the central banks, the Ministry of Finance, and other institutions to take forward, which CPTM will continue to support and hopefully will be even more so engaged as a leading program. Within the brief, obviously, there has been numerously, many times, referred to as one of the issues, the development of or emergence of new standards for interoperability, but also for a number of other reasons. And for that reason, the message that has been put together and sent to the 39 DEVCO and ISO General Assembly for their deliberations, which start on 11th of September, is focusing on the new strategic value of National Bureau of Standards in the digital age. And that is related specifically to shaping and implementing national visioning. Now, the message makes reference to examples of situations that CPTM members found themselves and National Bureau of Standards, whereby they were engaged, like in Cameroon, in relation to their vision, national vision. This year, like in Cameroon, in relation to the National Vision 2035. And sometime earlier this year, the ANO, the Cameroon National Bureau of Standards, has been involved alongside government ministries, other agencies, in a very important exercise at the national level in trying to see in what way national visioning can be implemented. Now, as a National Bureau of Standards, to be called upon to try to give specific reasons why you have to be involved in, as different from the usual traditional function that the Bureau of Standards has, or in addition to, is a very new thing to happen. So therefore, the message makes a case for all the National Bureau of Standards to pay attention to actually their new emerging roles, strategic roles in a national context, in relation to national visioning for national security, but also due to the digital technology. And of course, in relation to digital technology, such as in relation to fintech or blockchain, that central banks and other financial services are very keen to adopt them, they have a key role. How do they do that? How do we achieve that? National Bureau of Standards, by working quite closely with central banks. The digital age, the data science, is required to be added to the National Bureau of Standards. National Bureau of Standards, particularly in developing countries, are key employers of some of the best scientists, chemists and engineers. They will need to add data science scientists because of that, in addition to digital technology specialists, because of new emerging standards. Hence, the emerging strategic role, which has to be talked about, articulated in a national context, for which an institutional engagement at the national framework requires to be set up, for which probably additional items in national budgets need to be found, since this is not an additional, is a key role the National Bureau of Standards will have. They will also have similar role in supporting the emerging new statistics, the national statistics, with the national statistics bureaus, are going to require additional standards in relation to statistics because of the digital data. Therefore, obviously the National Bureau of Standards, they need also to develop adaptive flexibility approaches in their own way of managing their own role as well as the emerging new role. Again, the message says that to the ISO that all the National Bureau of Standards who are involved in the CPTM Quality and Standards Inclusion Initiative in the Commonwealth and beyond, in particularly in Africa, ARSO, all the African group of Bureau of Standards, they will be very much supported by the CPTM to undertake an implementation of, an action on this strategic value of the Bureau of Standards in national context, regional and otherwise. So here is a message, and to the international standard organizations, we wish all the Bureau of Standards, particularly our group that is in touch during the year, to take advantage of the get-together in Beijing of all the National Bureau of Standards, and also to try to get together and leverage this articulation of their value. We are very grateful to Dr. Yves Gazekwa, who took a lead in the CPTM group, and also she's president of ARSO, and she will be, together with members from Barbados, from Uganda, from Kenya, from Cameroon, from Botswana, and so on, they will be able to get together as usual in a Commonwealth and beyond format. So good luck to them. Now, as you realize, both messages, finance ministers, central bank, senior officials, as well as the National Bureau of Standards for the ISO, they are mentioning the digital age. Now, I was wondering if just adding this metaphorically to every heading, as we find nowadays, do we realize what that means? And I was looking into a recent vocabulary of information, society and culture, digital keywords book that was put together specifically for that reason. And I highly recommend it because you see, just to spell out a few thoughts from this book, words are actions. So digital, when you say digital age as words, that means actions. And actions are also a kind of words. So when one talks about digital age, one mainly is referring to the 21st century. But this is not true, because digital comes as a key word from digits. And the digits are not new words. If we take other keywords which are associated with digital age, algorithm, hacker, internet, cloud, and all these sort of keywords which we are using in a way that we don't quite realize we're using them metaphorically. One needs to take them very serious because they have some meaning, both technological, in technology terminology, but also in actions, in politics, in a number of things. So I would propose that in the next week or so, we're trying to go through a more detailed demystification of what is called digital age. Since about a year ago, because of this language, the information age type of language, we were very preoccupied with trying to develop and to add, to explore, as it emerges, the digital landscape and the implication for smart partners of the digital landscape. So there is an initiative specifically to do with emerging digital landscape, challenges and opportunities. But that particular initiative cannot exist on its own. It is embedded into financial inclusion to support central banks, National Bureau of Standards and Quality and Standards. So for that reason, the two messages for the finance ministers, central banks, and for ISO from the National Bureau of Standards have got in their title digital age. So with this, I would propose that next week I'm going to go a bit more in detail through this aspect, but until then you may wish to look into this and other kind of references which deal with these issues. Finally, the ISO G8 takes place in Beijing. We have quite a preoccupation with understanding, entering the Chinese mind in our group, the sonnets, put together by Zhou Zhang from Mauritius, a leading figure in our group and a CPTM companion. In addition to this, just not about 2 weeks ago or so, there was a very interesting book that came out. It's called The Water Kingdom, and it's about a secret history of China by a very well-known physicist, specialist in physics, and very much known into understanding and developing theoretical background for networks. And the book about the Water Kingdom, The Secret History of China, it says that the power and the future of China is related to understanding the way the water in China is being managed, both in terms of environment, in terms of its uses, and all the aspects of water. So this is for those who are already in Beijing. They may, if they can, get hold of on the internet of aspects of this book. They may wish to test the issues that Philip Ball is put together into this book. And with this, we wish you all the best and have a nice weekend, and good luck to those who are in Beijing.